welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're heading straight into some really challenging terrain along the Chhattisgarh-Telangana border.
That's right. We're focusing on a pretty significant recent operation. It's called Operation Black Forest.
And, if you've ever wondered about the sheer effort involved in internal security, especially in these incredibly tough landscapes.
Yeah, places where nature itself almost feels like a barrier, then this deep dive is definitely for you. We're really going to unpack this 21-day operation.
The aim to basically dismantle a major Naxalite presence, a stronghold.
And this wasn't, just a standard patrol or sweep. We're talking about the Karegutta Hills.
Right, an area that, by many accounts, had become this sort of Naxal fortress, you could say.
Pretty much. For this Maoist insurgency that's been active for, decades now, the goal here was ambitious, no doubt about it.
Dismantle their setup, their infrastructure, and basically restore government control.
And what really makes you pause is the scale they're talking about.
Oh.
Over 5,000 security personnel. Yeah, and these are elite units, highly trained people navigating this treacherous terrain, facing IEDs, ambushes.
The expected dangers, yeah.
But also, and this is the part that sounds almost unbelievable, swarms of angry bees.
Bees.
Seriously, it highlights just how unpredictable these environments can be. It had moments, apparently, that were just wild.
Okay, so let's set the scene a bit. To understand why this operation, Black Forest, was so significant, we need to talk about Naxalism itself, right?
Exactly. For anyone less familiar, it's fundamentally a Maoist ideology. It started with the aim of fighting for marginalized groups, the poor, the landless.
But the methods have often involved violence, unfortunately, creating instability.
Yes, that's the controversial part. And these Karegutta Hills, they weren't just any forest. The specific area, about 1,200 square kilometers, had been a known Naxal stronghold for a very long time.
A maze, essentially. Difficult terrain, easy to hide, hard for forces to penetrate effectively.
Precisely, which is why it became such a focus. You could feel the government's urgency increasing.
Yeah, didn't the Union Home Minister set a deadline?
Yeah.
To, root out left-wing extremism?
That's right. There was a public push, a stated goal. And Operation Black Forest really feels like a direct, concrete step towards that.
Okay, so it wasn't just a reaction. It sounds like there was some serious planning involved.
Oh, absolutely. From what we understand, this was meticulously planned. Not a spur-of-the-moment thing at all. It involved intelligence gathering, strategic deployment.
A blend of brains and brawn, so to speak.
You could say that. Combining detailed intel work with this massive deployment of forces, it suggests a very coordinated strategy.
And the numbers you mentioned, over 5,000 personnel. That's huge.
It really is. And drawn from various elite forces. You've got the CRPF, the Cobra Commandos, who are like jungle warfare specialists.
Right.
Then Chhattisgarh's own DRG, the District Reserve Guard, and the STF, Special Task Force. Plus Telangana's Greyhounds, who are known for being highly effective.
So a real multi-agency push. Significant coordination must have been needed.
No doubt. And it wasn't just manpower. They were apparently leaning heavily on technology, too.
Okay, like what?
Drones for eyes in the sky, real-time surveillance, satellite imagery for mapping, tracking movements, intelligence flowing constantly to the teams on the ground.
So a high-tech game of hide-and-seek, almost.
In a way, yeah. Using advanced tools to try and counter the Naxalites' advantage in that terrain.
And let's just picture that terrain again. Dense forests, visibility must be low, steep cliffs, narrow paths.
Exactly. Perfect ambush territory. And then the constant threat of IEDs, improvised explosive devices.
Planted along paths, near potential camp spots, a huge risk for the troops.
Yeah, massive risk. And the early days of the operation really highlighted that. Reports suggest they defused something like 20 IEDs in just the first 4 days.
20? Wow. That tells you something about how prepared the Naxalites were to defend that area.
It certainly does. And it shows the skill needed from the bomb squads and the sniffer dogs right from the start.
So this whole thing unfolded over 21 days. It sounds like you could almost break it down into phases, like a 3-act drama in the jungle.
That's a good way to put it. Act 1, maybe April 21st to the 25th. That was the initial deployment. Troops moving in, intelligence focusing on finding Naxal camps.
And they saw action early.
Yes, there was an initial skirmish reported, 3 Naxalites neutralized, and, as we mentioned, defusing those first 20 IEDs, setting the stage, really.
Establishing that presence, disrupting their defenses.
Exactly, gaining that initial foothold and signaling, we're here and we're here in force. The IED diffusion was probably key to allowing further movement.
Okay, then Act 2. say April 26th to May 3rd. This is where it gets unusual.
Yes, this is where the infamous bee swarms come into play. A major, unexpected challenge, apparently.
Just incredible nature fighting back, in a way.
It seems like it. And tragically, this is when Rolo, the CRPF sniffer dog, reportedly died from bee stings. A really sad moment and a reminder of the unpredictable dangers.
Absolutely. A different kind of sacrifice.
But the operation pressed on. There was a major firefight reported around this time, sort of in the central part of the hills,
Okay.
resulting in 7 more Naxalites neutralized. And importantly, they uncovered a hidden arms cache.
So hitting their resources directly.
Yes. And during the same period, reports say 3 Naxal camps were found and destroyed, yielding more weapons, but also documents, potentially valuable intelligence.
So the pressure was definitely mounting.
It seems so. And then another engagement resulted in 5 more Naxalites neutralized, plus the seizure of IED-making materials.
Mm-hmm.
They were really trying to dismantle the Naxals' operational capability piece by piece.
Right. So that brings us to Act 3, the finale, May 4th to the 11th.
This appears to have been the final decisive push. Coordinated assaults, really going for the core remaining elements.
And the result.
The neutralization of 12 more Naxalites was reported, and significantly, this included 2 commanders. Taking out leadership is always a major blow.
Definitely disrupts command and control.
And they seized critical communication equipment, too. Radios, that kind of thing. Further hampering any coordinated resistance or escape.
So the final tally, as reported, was 31 Naxalites neutralized overall.
That's the number reported, along with weapon seizures and, crucially, the claim of regaining government control over the Karegutta Hills, after potentially decades of Naxal dominance there.
That's a significant reported outcome.
It is. And when you look at who is involved, you see the different strengths playing out. The Cobra Commandos, their jungle warfare expertise must have been